My name's Stacy. See, growing up for me was wonderful. I don't have one of those stories where I had any problems in my childhood. Nothing like that. My parents divorced when I was around 9 or 10, but that still had nothing to do with anything. We were brought up right, given everything we needed. There's no real issue there. I just liked to party and did it all through high school. Just alcohol. Never really got in any kind of trouble. Nothing like that. Always was able to keep jobs and just never really had any issues, and I got away with that for a lot of years. Back in 2003, I started to dabble into meth. I don't know if it's because the alcohol just wasn't working for me anymore or not. I don't think so at that point. I know I just started doing it recreationally, and I had a guy move in with me that did it every day, and so that kind of set that whole thing in motion. I went into a rehab in 2003 in San Diego, but was never convinced that I was an alcoholic. I just wanted to get off the meth. So when I got done with that rehab, I drank again right away, and stayed away from the meth, but drank for another 8 or 9 years, and I think slowly but surely the alcohol did start to not do what it used to do, because then I was introduced to pain pills as well. A guy I used to work with would have them all the time. I'd never even taken a pain pill until I was 39 years old, and I just loved the effects of it, what it did. It made me feel like $1,000,000, and slowly but surely, just the addiction started. I liked them, and I didn't like the way I felt without them, and so I'd take them, I'd kick them, I'd end up getting back on them, and I'd kick them, and basically what it comes down to is I could stay away from them until I would drink. Because the drinking, I did finally cross that line where alcohol just was not doing it for me anymore. It would make me miserable, and I would do it anyway. Keep trying to relive the good old days of when it was fun. Hey, party, and it's just not like that anymore. I've gone through AA before. I've done all this stuff, but I've never really admitted that I was an alcoholic until actually right before I got here.
When was that?
About a month ago. I haven't been here very long. I had been clean and sober through January and February. My wife and I and some friends had gone to Reno and started, I ended up drinking, and it took only about 3 weeks for me to become a complete mess after that. Started drinking every day. The alcohol was making me feel horrible, and all I was looking for was pills. It got to the point where I couldn't even work, I couldn't function, I was just depressed and just in an awful spot. I felt horrible, and it only took 3 weeks from that first drink to being totally lost. There was a Saturday I pulled up to go to work. Couldn't even get out of my car. I was just drinking beer, waiting for something to happen just so I could get some motivation to go to work. And my daughter had her little Pinewood Derby race going on at the church that day. I called my mom to double check to see what time my wife was going to be there with the kids, and she said, "Well, if you've been drinking, don't bother coming." And I guess you could tell. And that just set me off even more. And I remember just hanging up the phone and feeling guilty, and I just drank more. And I ended up not going to the church. I turned my phone off, went to my buddy's house a few miles away, and just isolated, and hung out with him and drank myself into Sunday morning. Finally, didn't call my wife, didn't tell her where I was, just didn't show up, didn't come home. because I was ashamed. Sunday morning, I turned my phone back on. She called and I answered, and I said to her, I need help. I got a problem. I need to go do something. And I'm very lucky. She was just very loving, very supportive. Just said, she was happy that I came to that conclusion and admitted it. She said, just come home, we'll figure something out. And I called Pastor Rodney that day on Sunday. He told me to call him back on Monday, which I did. I thought I'd be coming here later on that week or something. I felt I had some stuff to get handled. My job site was a mess. Anyway, he said, you better come right now. Come today.
Mm-hmm.
So I packed up all my stuff, waited for my wife's daycare kids to all go home, got in the car with my wife, and she took me here. It's been interesting here. It's been a whole new way of life, atmosphere for me. I've never written or read the Bible before. Never been introduced to the spiritual aspect that goes on in this place. And it's, I admit that I have some barriers. It's not that easy for me to just accept everything, just to flip a switch. But it's working. I'm growing. I'm asking questions. I want to believe 100%. Pastor Rodney the other day in a meeting said, just, if you need more faith, just pray for it. And so I'm doing that, and I feel like I'm making progress. I know I'm an alcoholic. I know if I just don't take that first drink, things will be okay. But I want that spiritual aspect in my life too to help me out. Because what can it hurt? And so that's just what I'm working on, and it's been very helpful here.
Wonderful.